This is no longer our battle. I tried fighting you. It can't be done.
Could you really rest for all of eternity, knowing that you had the chance to stop him, but did nothing?
Hello everybody, this is Snarist, and welcome back to my Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, no upgrade run. Did that come out right? Welcome back to my Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, no upgrade run, and this is part 10, Kill the Warchiefs, 1 of 3. And so this is going to be a little bit of a weird set of videos, and it's going to be like that later on as well, because I'm going to be cutting out any parts where I make a mistake, or if there's certain areas where I've got to repeat a mission to lure out a Warchief, or in particular near the end of the game when it comes to branding the Warchiefs, I'm going to have to do, I'm only going to show you the successful ones, but there's going to be a bunch of instances where things will change, where I got killed once or twice, or, you know, the captains that I branded got killed, or the Warchiefs I branded got killed, and I ended up accidentally killing Warchiefs I was supposed to brand, and so others took their place, and then I branded them. But this is going to be the first instance of when I finally enter the trap and get my first Warchief to come at me. You'll begin to see just how frustrating it can be trying to deal with Warchiefs that are quite tanky and recover their health slowly, because that's exactly what we're going to deal with. And it is a matter of luck, and I'm doing this sort of the faster way, if the harder way. So if you want an easier time, I would definitely recommend just, you know, working on figuring out who among the captains is in the roster in this region, paying attention to the captains that have the biggest weaknesses that you can exploit, and making sure that they get promoted by taking out all the other captains ahead of them. But I just had to stop for a little bit to get some lunch because I was fucking hungry and I hadn't had anything for like 12 or 13 hours. And, you know, it comes the morning and, you know, family's starting to wake up and everyone's moving about. So if you happen to hear the odd background noise, it's pretty muted, but if you hear like the odd thing going off here and there, just you know, try your best to forgive it. And there I go trying to use the zip line. I accidentally fall down this way. Yeah, the detection on some of the movement's a little bit finicky in this game. For the most part, it's really great, but yeah. I should mention as well, if you notice that I'm moving quite fast in certain sequences, if you go into a crouch position like this to stealth, and you hold down X, which is technically the, like, you know, holding it down to run, what'll end up happening is you will still crouch walk, but you'll do like a crouch sort of jog, and you won't make any noise. And I love that, because it just goes to show crouching down and doing like a light jog while you're hunched over, sort of like a Gears of War like run animation almost. And yeah, you're still stealthy and you're still quiet, and that's great. But if you need to move a little bit softly, you know, a bit softer, you don't want to collide into anything or bump into anything or bump anybody over, then you can slow it down a little bit by just crouching normally and moving. And now we're going to face off against Ratlug the Grim. And so he's a shield bearer, and unfortunately, if you get too close to him, as part of his traits, if you get too close to him and you're smacking at him for too long, he'll do like a shockwave get away from me attack. He's got 2 bodyguards, and he's also got a poisoned weapon that will not only take away some of the stuff on my heads up display, so it's hard for me to know when to counter things or to dodge things. He can be killed by ranged attacks and combat finishes, which combat finishes aren't really going to help in this case, so I've got to work on hitting him with arrows little by little. But because you can see on the map there aren't that many elf shots lying around, the ideal thing to do in this situation would have been to keep peppering him with shots, keep on running away, finding 1 or 2 Uruks that haven't detected me yet or were just on their own, and then drain them completely so that I get my elf shot back, and just keep hitting him in the head time and time again. Because you'll find that the longer I go on for, the longer I go on for, he'll get more of his health back, and that's what makes this fight a lot tougher than it needs to be. And yeah, one of his bodyguards is also a shield bearer, and he's got that same like get away from me attack, and it led to me getting into a grapple. And so because I didn't expect that and the camera bugged out, I tried to do a ground execution and get a bit more health off him, because I'm sure his bodyguards there aren't very spongy. You know, they die very easily, but you know, I don't know which one of them are invulnerable to ranged or not, and that's why it kind of pays to gather your intel on these Warchiefs and their bodyguards before you face off against them. But I was just being kind of reckless and stupid. And I suppose I'll use this video as well, now that I've discussed strategy, to talk about more or less like the story of Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. I think the story of this game is more than serviceable, and it's not terrible by any means, but it's not like super impactful either. Shadow of War definitely has its rough patches, but for the most part, Shadow of War's story is excellent. And I always found Talion's story to be really like tragic. I know that the Middle-earth games here, you know, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, are non-canon to the original story, but they still had their own sort of canon tie-in where, you know, Isildur was one of the 9 ring wraiths rather than, you know, one of the other kings of men that wasn't Isildur, because technically Isildur was killed. But in the game's canon for Shadow of War, at least, you'll find that he becomes one of the ring wraiths and you free him, but then you use the ring that he had to steadily lose yourself to the darkness and become one of the Nazgul. And so Talion's spending like 20 or 30 years of his whole like now immortal life, you know, constantly causing problems for Sauron, just until it gets to the moment where the ring has been discovered again and he finally succumbs to the darkness. And eventually when the ring gets destroyed and, you know, the Nazgul are now vulnerable and Talion gets wiped out by one of those falling meteors or, you know, stray rocks that are flying out from Mount Doom, he ends up dying and letting go of his sword and all that and going back to his family. It would have been the icing on the cake to actually see his family in, you know, to see his family there. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, if my lore isn't too far off, Talion actually does go to the Grey Havens, which is where you can go to even as a mortal man. As a mortal, you can still go there if you were a ring bearer. And technically Talion was a ring bearer, not for the One Ring necessarily, but for one of the other rings of power. So technically he does get to go to the Grey Havens, but I also don't really understand what this means for his family, because technically his family weren't ring bearers. So while I think in the lore of Lord of the Rings, there isn't really a definitive way of saying what happens to mortal men and hobbits and all that when they get killed and they die. You know, there's no sort of like afterlife or whatever, or, you know, anything can happen, or they just disappear into nothingness. It's not really made clear what happens, but I think a lot of people tend to forget that he wouldn't be able to join his family if that was the Grey Havens, which is a little sad, but at least maybe it would sort of bring a degree of peace. And it's the funniest thing, isn't it? I'm bringing up the Grey Havens and I'm immediately thinking about the soundtrack that plays in the final like goodbye scene between like Sam and Frodo and the rest of the hobbits, and all of a sudden I'm starting to get a little bit teary-eyed. I'm tripping up my words and my phone won't shut the fuck up, even though I'm getting recommendations for people and live streams that I saw just once, and now it won't stop recommending me shit. But yet somehow some other YouTubers I really want information on when I get updates from and videos from, they suddenly just want to, you know, they don't want to show me that. So you'll see a couple of interesting pieces of tech here that I'm doing. What I was doing is I was taking out the other captains just so I can get this guy alone. And see, when you kill a captain, it prompts a lot of the Uruks around them into running away scared. But because there's still a Warchief rallying them, most of them do unfortunately stay behind. So I'm almost dead. And I'm pretty sure if you're hanging on a ledge or you're suspended and you get killed and, you know, you get 0 health, it's not just a matter of you falling down and then going into like a vulnerable state to get killed. It's more or less, I think it's an immediate game over. So again, you can end up with a completely different captain or a warchief that you have to deal with. And if you take your time, you can deal with this pretty easily. But yeah, look, there's another captain coming in to join the party, because of course you're hanging around with, you're hanging around fortresses. There's going to be the odd captain here and there. And I think it's pretty funny that his name is Proc Fathead, but more so like, has anyone ever seen oh fuck, what's the guy's name? It's a pretty old YouTuber. His name's like Tears of Grace. And the first time I got introduced to him, which I don't watch his videos anymore now, but he's got tons, like hundreds of videos on Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. And yes, he is terrible at the game, but part of his charm is that he somehow made even this game, which this game is really fucking easy. He did what I did when I first played Shadow of Mordor back in the day, when it first came out. And it's that I never bothered with the story, because I spent like tens of hours going around killing captains, trying to clear out the entire region of Uruk captains and seeing what would happen, or branding every Warchief, and then going around and branding every Uruk captain that I could find, and making them bodyguards. Just having fun and experimenting with it. And his videos are really funny, like his editing is really great, and I'm getting tempted to watch him again, but right now I've got to make my own content rather than consume everybody else's. Plus those videos are really, really old now, so, you know, it's time to leave the past be. Maybe one of these days. But see, now I'm getting pretty sick of dealing with this guy and every captain that wants to come by, so I'm moving back further into the fortress and trying to tempt him into following me by using the attract function, or by standing in a place where he can see me, taking pot shots at him, and just moving from one elf shot to the next, or finding a vulnerable Uruk that I can take advantage of, and, you know, just springing the odd trap here and there. Because at this point I don't care if he has any sort of like hatred trait that I trigger, I just want to get him dead. Because I believe they do recover a little bit of health when you trigger one of their hate traits. It doesn't always happen, but for the most part I think it does. So I'm just trying to find as much elf shot as I can, and you can see in the top right hand corner there that his health is slowly rebuilding and getting back up. I can take it down faster than he can gain it back, but if I take too long, it's going to recover anyway. So I use a couple of elf shot to shadow strike over there. I find this guy alone, and this was a mistake. I shouldn't have ground executed him. I should have drained him to get more elf shot back. But I'm going to run out of it in a couple of shots anyway. And he's, you know, he's moved in such a way where his head's protected now, which is unfortunate. But you can't jump over this guy in particular. He just knocks you away. So what I tried to do before as well, when I got knocked down by him and his poison weapon, is you can open up your range mode. You can pull your bow out, and as long as you've got a full focus bar, what will end up happening is, see, I'm trying to grab him again, but it's not working. You can pull out your bow, and you can use it to tiptoe around the enemy, because they move slow enough that you can still avoid their attacks just fine. But if you pull out the bow, and you just sort of like scoot around the enemy, sometimes, if they've seen you, and they're at a certain distance where you know you can't stealth kill them, then you can pull out your bow, you can move towards them and then around them, and then you can still get that stealth kill. So it's almost like you're pausing time for a couple of seconds to move a bit closer. And I think it's a really ingenious way of using the mechanic that not too many people think about. But yeah, you can use it to also slow down time and to dodge incoming projectiles when you can. I got a lucky shot on that, but he's still going to be recovering health in no time at all. So I'm just trying to drain some of these Uruks, but now the captain's on its way, and I make a mistake there because I think it's going to be a counter, but he's got one of those heavy attacks where you have to dodge it, and I hate the second like sort of last chance you get, because you never know where the prompt's going to be. The circle's really small, it's sometimes a little tricky to see when you first spot it, but you never know where it's going to appear on the screen. You don't know where the prompt's going to be to move into it, and I'm pretty sure, like, don't get me wrong about this, I'm pretty sure on PC it'd be a lot easier to pull off, but on console it just feels really slow. So yeah, if you go down twice, then unfortunately if you go down a third time, you're not going to have another chance. I'd be careful in the Nurnen area as well, because you'll have plenty of enemies that may have like a no chance strength, where they don't give you a second chance to recover, they just kill you immediately. And I tried to hop over the fence there, but it wouldn't let me until I moved further in. Very annoying. But we're coming up to the end of the video, and I'm about to take care of a bunch of Uruks with, you know, these Morgai flies, freak them out a little bit. I just need to wait for everything to calm down. I need to find the right angle where they stop spotting me. And unfortunately, because of no upgrades, I can't detonate any fire pits, I can't detonate any barrels, any grog barrels, I can't do any of that. So I'm just trying to get away from all these enemies. And I'm standing on the edge of the platform here. This was a mistake. I should have moved further away to drain him in case someone threw like a spear or an axe behind me. But luckily he's the only one up here, so I can quite happily take shots at him and just wait for him to be vulnerable. Careful planning. I take the shot, he's gone down, and I'm flipping over the guys, just trying to get closer, and there we go. That's the end of this Warchief. And the next set of Warchiefs that I go after aren't going to be a problem. And I should preface that in this first part of the game, when it comes to killing the Warchiefs, there'll always be more Warchiefs to replace them. So luckily, in this instance, all the game wants you to do is kill 3 other Warchiefs. It doesn't matter if you die and more respawn or more take their place, or their bodyguards take their place, it doesn't matter. You just need to kill 3 of them. It's not like how it is in the second region where you've got to brand 5 and keep them at the top and never make any mistakes. So yeah, we only need to kill 2 more Warchiefs, but this video is going to go on for a little bit longer because I want a piece of this guy right here, this fucking asshole that came and interrupted our fight. So what will happen is when you kill a Warchief, even if there's captains around, a lot of them will be tempted into running. So you can tell that he's a little bit faster than me. That's how it is sometimes, but you can use the range mode to move closer. And when the captains are running away, you can stealth stab them. You can quite happily wail away on them, and they'll barely fight back at all unless they have some sort of immediate defense mechanism. And I go ahead and I just kill this captain here right before the guy behind me hits him, and then they'll run off scared.